Greetings, everybody. Serp2451 here, and welcome back to another episode of Weeb Warriors. And it's going to be another short edition. Jordan had an emergency to deal with, so it's just little old me again. Well, it is what it is, so it's all good in the neighborhood. Well, I'm going to start first with Noblesse, episode 5. So, continuing off from the cliffhanger with Glasses, red-haired kid, and Regius getting captured by our 5 individuals, getting M21 to pretty much spill the beans, and Kron's essentially telling Shark, yeah, you can go ham. It's alright to just deal with all this nonsense. And on top of that, Sarah informs Wright and Frankenstein that her connection with Regius was severed either because he was knocked out or he was killed. So she had to go to where his location is, which she ultimately finds him, well, where he's at, along with Ryan and Frankenstein following after. So 2 of the members that were introduced to Glasses and the red-haired kid, Yu-chan, one of them, Ponytail, is on the roof because he was ordered by Kronz to do so. And he ends up finding Frankenstein, which, that was cool. And Sarah ultimately fights Hammer. And everything pretty much culminates with Kronz killing Shark, draining his power, but even before that, folks, he takes the pill that enhances their abilities. And he says, Shark, can you stand? Yeah, I can stand. Shanks him through the body and drains him of his very life essence. Pretty much turning him to a bag of bones and meat. And slamming him against the wall where his head explodes. And I'm like, sweet baby Jesus, that was wild. I wasn't ready for this bullshit, fam. I was not ready. Still, very solid episode. Even though the show can bore me to tears, because Rai is not that interesting of a lead. He is very wooden. Admittedly, he gets a few chuckles out of me. I will admit that, but he's bland as shit. Next up, Tonikawa. Essentially, our married couple does cute couple things with the opening of the episode where Tsukasa is a restless sleeper and sleeps in the same bed as her husband, not NASA, and steals a kiss from him while rolling back to her futon. And then the whole crux of the episode is wanting to get a bigger apartment for the 2 of them so they can have their own bathroom, all this stuff. Whereas Tsukasa's like, yeah, everything's okay. I like it here because I'm closer to you because of the amount of space we have. And then, after having a talk with his kohai, NASA gives this interesting tactic to see if they can get a bigger apartment. Bookshelf for manga and DVD collections. And all this stuff. She was sold right from the jump. But they need to get essentially a co-signer to get them a bigger apartment. And NASA had to tell his parents that, hey, he's married. And so to kind of appease them because they're very suspicious, thinking that he wants a bigger apartment, our couple ends up going to Nara, where his parents live. And this is pretty much a honeymoon and a parent trip at the same time. So they bought a camera to pretty much enjoy sharing memories together. And that's essentially the episode. God, I love this show. This show is wholesome. And it's great. Okay, next up. Oh, I really want to talk about Moriarty the Patriot. Episode 5. This episode's basically focused primarily on one of Moriarty's college students being missing for 3 days. And how it all ties to a murdered waitress at a local pub. Well, I shouldn't say murdered quite yet. It was passed off as a suicide. Because the cold open made it to where the young lady pretty much fell from the bridge after pretty much singing and dancing creepily. But, as we found out, one of the administrators of the college, a Sir Dudley, was pretty much extorting these noble families of their wealth, pretty much to fund his brothels and other such things that he passes off as hospitals. And with that, Moriarty's like, even though there's no consultant, there's no one that pays for this job, essentially. But he's going to do it because he's just that kind of a guy. And now we're introduced to new characters. Colonel Morgan and Fred, which Jay ultimately thought was Sherlock and his brother. That's fucking hilarious. That makes me laugh uncontrollably. You were wrong, Jay. You were wrong. And our missing boy, Lucien, it turns out he had feelings for this girl. He wanted to marry her. Because the two of them really loved each other. And even though he was a man of high status, Dudley pretty much killed the girl by doping her up with a lot of opium, and caused her to have her suicide. So, as a way to kind of mess with our villain of the story, Moriarty came in using Fred as a decoy to terrify him, and having Colonel Morgan, after banging a chick at the pub, he shoots at Sir Dudley, and ultimately leads him to falling into the same river that young Frida died in. And the episode ends with our 4 gentlemen pretty much looking over young Lucien Atwood, putting together a grave for his lost love. Now, they're off to do another unique mission, another interesting situation in the next episode, and I can't wait to see that, because it's another multi-parter, and I'm really excited. Now, let's go to Jujutsu Kaisen, because, first and foremost, our boy Itadori is not dead. He comes back to life after having a fight/conversation with Secunda, and Gojo is ultimately having him train his curse energy by watching movies with one of the principal's corpse dolls, which is in the form of a punching bag bear. Well, a punching bear. It is fucking hilarious. Meanwhile, the demons that were in the diner pretty much receive their mission and are going to capture Gojo. And one of the demons erupts so hot and he burns everyone in the diner to a crisp. And the episode ends where this same demon that pretty much lit everyone aflame in the diner is challenging Gojo so he can kill him. There's a lot of great things in this episode, like the character development for the other members of our trio with their upperclassmen. But I'm just going to leave that for all of y'all to see for yourselves, because it's actually very great. This show is fun. I love it. And its ED is fantastic. I love it so much. And then Danmachi, Season 3. This episode, guys, where everything just comes together. We run into the Xanos, and they're pissed. Well, obviously, because their kin were slain by the poachers. And they've run around to actually acquire a way to gain entry to face off against the poachers. And Lead and Bell actually have an argument when the Ganesha Familia found our talking monster crew and started to try to tame them. And Lead's trying his best to, settle this issue himself, even though he is the first person. And I will say person, even though he's a talking monster, he's a person in his own right. He respects Bell. And he says, Bell, you're human, right? This is a matter for us. You don't need to get involved. But Bell, being the kind of person that he is, runs ahead to chase after them. After Ryu says, nah, let's head back with the others, because we don't want anyone to get suspicious. But Bell's like, fuck that nonsense. I'm going to go save them because I'm going to do my thing. And Ryu's like, yeah, I figured as much. And gives him a pouch, which gave him the opportunity to enter the Labyrinth of Daedalus. Which we also find out that Dix is a descendant of Daedalus. And the descendants of Daedalus use their eyes to enter this complex labyrinth, which is the next great work of Daedalus, who imprisoned himself, tries and so focused to actually get stuff done, to continue on with this work. But with that being said, Dix, even though he's level 5, Bell's gonna fight him anyway, since everyone's fighting, and Bell wants to rescue Ine, which it saddens me to see her in such a state. It's awful. Just completely ridiculous. Alright, let me see. So, Danmachi, Moriarty, Tonikawa, Jujutsu Kaisen, Noblesse. Yeah, that's all 5. But, speaking of Noblesse, like I said, even though I did that show in the beginning, I should have saved it for last. It is what it is. But, thanks to some news that my buddy Brian had presented to me, Webtoons, the medium that gave us Noblesse and a few other shows from previous seasons, since they're working with Crunchyroll for their adaptations, they're getting their own anime studio, well, their own production studio, and they're partnering with Rooster Teeth and a few other production studios to work on making their own anime and live-action adaptations of all of their works. And I'm thinking, well, good for them. I can't wait to see what they can do and pull off on their own with their own production studio. I'm excited for it. So, I think I've talked long enough here, guys. I know my previous short episodes were about 6 minutes long, and with this being a bit longer, because I had a little bit more to say with these episodes here. But regardless, this has been Serpentine 451. Since I am using my Twitter, albeit not as much as I probably should, but I am using my Twitter. So, I also use my Instagram. I posted something I just made about a week or so ago. And, where everything about the whole YouTube thing, liking, commenting, subscribing, do all that nonsense. Well, anyway, this has been Tony, aka Serpentine451. So enjoy yourself. See you later.